That was a very important question that he was asked, and he wanted to be specific, but he didn't. The only thing that happened to him, he didn't think he'd get caught.
Well, I think it's important for people to understand that Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, has handed over to federal prosecutors everything they need to charge Brennan, Comey, Clapper, Mueller, Weissman, Rice, Biden, on McCabe, on down the line. It's all there. So this idea that there's not sufficient evidence for indictments is completely false. This is not investigative journalism. This isn't speculation. This isn't conjecture. These are declassified documents in which they themselves outline and document and memorialize their own crimes.
We are in the maximum danger. I just want to get his take on all that's happening and obviously the Comey indictment for perjury to Congress and all the rest of the charges that are there. And the backstory that I already knew, I'll leave it at that. I didn't get it from Martin, that they had the indictments and this prosecutor wouldn't do it because he was a deep stater. So they removed him, put in a good lawyer, and now the dominoes are about to fall. Trump just said more is coming. We'll play that clip in a moment. Roger Stone, what a historic moment right now. I can definitively say we just went up another level. The enemy is not going to give up. The war is about to intensify, Roger Stone.
Well, Alex, first of all, it's never a problem for me to be a little late for my great friend, General Michael Flynn, one of the greatest Americans, one of the greatest patriots, one of the greatest Christian gentlemen, and one of the greatest friends a man could have. So I'm honored to be on the same program with him, to be honest with you. Secondarily, there's a very significant backstory here. But first of all, I must say, since James Comey and I were indicted for the exact same charges, why did they announce this? Why didn't 29 heavily armed FBI agents in full SWAT gear, brandishing fully automatic assault weapons, assault his home at 6 o'clock in the morning and tip off an Infowars crew to be standing by to film the whole thing? And will a left-wing Democrat judge now impose a broad gag order on him? Because after all, his defending himself in public could taint the jury pool. That's the half-assed, non-legal excuse they gave for slapping me with a gag order when I couldn't defend myself in public, couldn't come on your show and talk about my case. Or do we have a two-tier justice system in which James Comey is going to be continuing to counter-punch his disinformation? Here's the backstory here, Alex. Eric Siebert, who was the U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, never disclosed that he had a stunning conflict of interest, that his father-in-law, meaning his wife's father, was the godfather to James Comey's daughter. There it is. This has never been disclosed publicly before, but Richard Cullen, who was an attorney who actually defended Mike Pence, is his father-in-law and is Comey's daughter's godfather. That alone should have meant that Eric Siebert, who was recommended for this job by the globalist governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, and approved by the two left-wing senators, Mark Warner, one of the biggest liars in the U.S. Senate, and Tim Kaine, who was, of course, Hillary Clinton's running mate for vice president, had a 51-page memo prepared arguing against the prosecution of James Comey. This is why President Trump very wisely moved aggressively to fire Siebert and to replace him with Lindsay Halligan, who is a very, very sharp and capable non-political lawyer.
Absolutely. And I was told by Justice Department folks 3 days ago about that individual being a deep state operative of the Comeys and how that's stuck under the radar and how they'll sit there and lie and say, oh, we'll do our job, and then don't do it. Trump was going to get rid of him, so he quit. But yeah, we need better messaging from the White House on that. We need Trump to come out and others and his surrogates, I guess you're doing it now, and explain this. But what do you make of Trump's statement that we'll play it right now, saying a lot more to come? Well, I mean, I've been, again, and I don't like to say this because I didn't get this stuff from Ed Martin. I was talking to Ed about my cases. other sources, the Democrats have heard this too, but they've got the indictment of, I'm told, of Letitia James. They are in the final stages of them for Brennan and Clapper and Jack Smith and others, and Fannie Willis. And that when this happens, it's already happening like a house of cards. A lot of the rats are going to leave the sinking ship. And that's what General Flynn predicted, that Comey would be first. Very wise to go after him first. He thinks he may flip over, but the problem is he's already made statements, to the contrary. So we're going to see. But this is when the deep state is going to really try another assassination attempt on Trump. This is when they're going to escalate the Podesta Civil War plan. Roger Stone.
Well, I do think that they're increasingly desperate. You see a whole line of disinformation now, for example, regarding the next character to fall. That would be John Brennan. Story in yesterday's New York Times that says that John Brennan's prosecution has stalled because Tulsi Gabbard fired 37 national security apparatchiks and suspended their security clearances. This is complete and total disinformation. The participation, the testimony, the involvement of those 37 deep staters, anti-Trump deep staters fired by Tulsi Gabbard, completely unnecessary for the prosecution of John Brennan. So the question is, will David Metcalf, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, who has jurisdiction in this matter, is he going to pull a Siebert and seek not to prosecute Brennan? Here's what I do know. Not a single subpoena has been issued by Metcalf to anyone in an investigation and preparation for the prosecution of Brennan. So what you have here is these deep state apparatchiks who are burrowed deep into the DOJ, who are resisting the orders from the top to prosecute those involved in the seditious conspiracy to commit treason and undo the 2016 election. Now, let's be very clear. Virginia, the Eastern Virginia jurisdiction, is an extraordinarily liberal jurisdiction. You've already gotten a liberal Democrat judge on Comey's case. You're going to get a jury that is top heavy with liberal Democrats, and they're going to try the same thing they tried on me in D.C. They're going to try to give James Comey a walk. I think the more important indictment is the seditious conspiracy indictment, which begins in 2016 or 2017 in the Oval Office of Barack Obama. We know who was involved: Comey, Clapper, Rice, Brennan, Weissman, Rosenstein, Mueller, McCabe, and so on. But that's a seditious conspiracy, Alex, that continues all the way from 2017, all the way through 2024, when they raid Mar-a-Lago, which means the correct jurisdiction is South Florida. And if it is brought here, you will get an honest judge and an unbiased jury. And these people are guilty as hell. They will be convicted.
Absolutely. And I am hearing from multiple sources that there are a lot of indictments already in the hopper, and that literally the operative you just talked about that resigned because Trump was about to fire him, that's all, literally in bed with the Comeys and Herbert Walker Bush and all the rest of it, that they were able to slip into that key area, that during the grand jury operations there in Virginia, literally I told people that were in the room, he literally, they wouldn't give me the details, but they just said it was like he was the defense. The prosecutors were like the defense trying to get the grand jury not to indict. And when they said we're going to indict, they went, hold on. And then Trump got word back that they said, oh, don't do that yet. And Trump's like, they're indicting and you're blocking it? Prosecutors can't do that. So that's the level of sabotage. That's why whoever prosecutes Comey needs to, really know what's going on and not put somebody in there that'll pull the punches. That makes sense?
It does. This had to be done because Lindsay Halligan, an incredibly capable attorney, was up against a hard deadline. The statute of limitations ran out on the 30th of this month, so she had to move and move very aggressively. Eric Siebert had been slow rolling this, never, of course, revealing his stunning conflict of interest. So now I ask the question about U.S. Attorney David Metcalf and whether he's really going to indict John Brennan. There's overwhelming evidence that has been presented in the declassified documents that were supplied to the Justice Department by Tulsi Gabbard. This idea that her firing a bunch of deep staters is the reason that John Brennan cannot be indicted is complete and utter nonsense. It is disinformation coming from the bowels of the CIA, and of course being carried by one of their favorite mouthpieces, the New York Times, Axios, the Washington Post. They're all saying the same thing. That's how you know it's absolutely untrue. There are no impediments to the prosecution of John Brennan, who really is the mastermind of the entire Russian.
And let's be clear, the media is acting like Trump's demanding political retribution and he's a dictator. He's the chief law enforcement officer. This idea that the president can't direct the Justice Department is pure horse crap. He's the only man popularly elected. He can drop nuclear bombs on people, okay? So the whole point is they're trying to intimidate everybody for him to not exercise his power after we've been gang raped by these people abusing their power illegally forever. And so we're in a war, cry havoc, let loose the dogs of war and go after all of these people. And it's already happening. I predict, though, as more indictments come out, I think by very soon, next week, that the House of Cards is going to collapse as the arrogance of what's left of the deep state realizes this is a different Donald Trump. Then enters the real problem, them trying to launch the Podesta plan and assassinating Trump. Roger Stone.
This is why what both J.D. Vance and Stephen Miller said last week was so vitally important. They are moving very aggressively to gut the financial operations and organizational operations of Antifa and these other ultra-leftist, mayhem, violent-oriented NGOs and structural organizations to try to stop their ability to mount a federal insurrection like we saw in the country in 2020 in the Antifa BLM riots, which they burned down half the country. So these are tandem operations. The president's moving very aggressively to defund and flush out an effort to stop their ability to mount the Podesta plan across the country. Look, I think, again, I open with this. If there are two examples, it would be what happened in the country after the brutal assassination of Charlie Kirk and what happened in the country after the death of George Floyd. We had prayer vigils around the country and around the world. They had violent insurrection. And then why is my case different than that of Comey? Why wasn't Comey's home raided this morning by 29 heavily armed FBI agents? Why will he not be gagged? And I predict to you that he won't be gagged. Who's weaponizing the criminal justice system? Absolutely clear that they have. And this cockamamie argument that if we're mean to the Democrats now, when they get back in power, they'll really try to destroy us. Ask General Flynn about that. Ask Paul Manafort. Ask any member of the Trump family. Ask Donald Trump himself. These people tried to destroy us. They tried to destroy you, Alex. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So this idea that if we take our foot off their neck now, they'll be nice to us later is nonsensical. They already tried to destroy us.
What it is suicidal. Well, let me show you this. I'm on with Brennan today, and you're bringing it up. Everybody brings up the Summer of Love 2020. There's no statute of limitations on organized crime, racketeering, violence, all this. We got documents 10 years ago where Obama had a plan to trigger nationwide martial law by trying to get black people all over the country, the documents are out of Maryland, to riot, to get cops to kill them so they could burn things down and keep Trump from getting into office. This has the group that Alexander Soros, literally generals, on how to carry out the violence and how to run it, and it's nationwide. This is the total proof of racketeering, and there's more than just this. So I'm on there with Giuliani today, and Giuliani, you know, God bless him, he's a famous he's like, I bet there's documents where they coordinate it. And I'm like, yeah, here they are. I mean, we have the smoking guns, Roger.
Yeah, there's no question about this, Alex. You've been exposing their plan for some time. They're getting increasingly panicky. Ken Delanian, this guy's hysterical on MSNBC, longtime CIA asset, fired by the LA Times for clearing his stories with the agency. This guy is a CIA mouthpiece saying that the arrest and prosecution of Comey is one of the great stains on our criminal justice system. It's outrageous. No, what's outrageous is that the Mockingbird media, like him, continue to bitch and moan because they're being held accountable.
Let's talk about that when we come back. It's something Key General Flynn said with Roger Stone. And I'm going to talk about January 6th. Oh, Ray lied. Ooh, more perjury charges. Cut and dry. Stay with us. All right, here is the president. I'll get Roger's response to this, saying there will be more indictments. Just about an hour and a half ago, or actually about 75 minutes ago, while getting on Marine One. Here it is.
Been indicted. Who is the next person on your list in this retribution?
It's not a list, but I think there'll be others. I mean, they're corrupt. These were corrupt, radical left Democrats. Because Comey essentially was he was worse than a Democrat. I would say the Democrats are better than Comey. But no, there'll be others. Look, that's my opinion. They weaponized the Justice Department like nobody in history. What they've done is terrible. And so I hope there are others, because you can't let this happen to a country.
And will you appoint a permanent U.S. attorney to try this case? Lindsey Halligan has never tried a case.
Well, we'll see, but it's a pretty easy case because, look, he lied. You saw my truth today. He lied. It was yes, no. He didn't say, well, in my opinion, he didn't do a lot of things that maybe he should have, but I don't think he could because he lied. That was a very important question that he was asked, and he wanted to be specific, but he didn't. The only thing that happened to him, he didn't think he'd get caught.
Yeah, so I want to get Roger Stone's response to that, and I hate looking at Comey. I detest him. I hate watching him, but you know what? We'll do this after Roger leaves. He testified at least 6-7 times, just like Ray on J6. That's where he got caught lying big. And like, did you ever leak to the media? Did you ever leak classified information? No, I never did. And later he's like, no, I gave it to my friend that, is the dean of this college. And they did. That's like a capo, Don Corleone, but in the real world, the Gambinos say, take care of this guy, kill him. And then your captain tells the soldier, go kill him. And then you're like, well, I ordered him killed, but I didn't do it myself. You're more guilty when you're the capo or the boss and give the order in premeditated murder than when you pull the trigger. Both get capital murder. It's the same thing here. It's totally premeditated. Later, oh, I did give it to them to put out because I thought the world needed to know. And I did go set up Flynn. Later, remember, he lied about that. I mean, I'm surprised he only got 2 charges of perjury and, this other one, basically obstructing the Congress. Roger, going back over this, yes, it looks open and shut. The problem is, like you said, that district in Virginia. What's your take on who's going to get indicted next?
Well, I think it's important for people to understand that Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, has handed over to federal prosecutors everything they need to charge Brennan, Comey, Clapper, Mueller, Weissman, Rice, Biden, on McCabe, on down the line. It's all there. So this idea that there's not sufficient evidence for indictments is completely false. This is not investigative journalism. This isn't speculation. This isn't conjecture. These are declassified documents in which they themselves outline and document and memorialize their own crimes. So this entire idea that they can't be charged because there's insufficient evidence, or they can't be charged because it's weaponization, or that Trump is just doing this on the basis of retaliation or revenge is nonsensical. People have to be held responsible for what was the greatest single abuse of governmental power, the greatest single dirty trick in American
that you literally were the like 3rd target. It went Trump, Flynn, Stone. I mean, we literally have. And by the way, you worked here at the time. I remember it all. Man, I wish we could get Assange. What are you hearing? Oh, I talked to, a talk show host in New York that's friends with him. He says it's going to be big. You literally, and then you told Congress you didn't know Assange. You said the same thing there you said here, but you hear from people it's going to be big. And then they tried to put you in prison for that. You had to be pardoned. I mean, you lost your...
I think most of your audience knows what they really wanted was to put enough pressure on me to get me to testify against Donald Trump. That's what they wanted. They spent $32 million. They had unlimited legal authority, unlimited funding, unlimited manpower, and they couldn't find any Russian collusion because none existed. So they wanted to invent it, and they wanted me to bear false witness against the president, say things that weren't true, which I refused to do. It was a horrific time in my life.
I'm going back from memory. Didn't a few of them actually, like, oh, Roger, this could go away if you know, I mean, didn't they reach out and get like, hey, come on, buddy?
Yeah, no, they were very blunt. They said that we'll tell the judge to give you no jail time. All you've got to do is agree to sign this statement. And of course, the statement was entirely false. They just said, oh, you won't even have to testify, which of course was a lie. I was never going to betray Donald Trump, and I was never going to say something that wasn't true. And Alex, I already taken 2 polygraph tests by the same entity that the FBI...
Roger, we still talk almost every day, but I mean, you and I were like right now. I was there. I knew all of this. I mean...
we knew in real time.
But remember, that's why I'm like, oh, Roger, don't worry. You didn't do anything. You're like, no, it's serious. I was wrong that time. You were right.
Well, I told you it was coming, and it ultimately came. It is only through the grace of God that I survived it, and I'm here to be with you and talk about it today. But look, you're right about the fact that too many of our people, too many of our supporters think that this fight is over, that Donald Trump won, and therefore everything is hunky-dory. That's not true. And now we're struggling with a bureaucracy that burrowed in under 8 years of Barack Obama, got an additional 4 years in the stolen election and the stolen term of Joe Biden. And we have elements of our own government continuing to fight this president's agenda.
In fact, not only have we not fully won yet, this is where the cornered rats are sinking. Their only move now is to attack, and they're signaling they are. So how will they attack? They've told us, Governor Newsom, we're going to launch the Western Alliance offense that is in the Podesta plan by that name, and in a movie that turns into a violent civil war. And the crowd celebrates when they hear it because they've all watched the movie and read the Democrat publications. They're gearing the Democrats up for uprisings.
Well, and Alex, nothing made the hair on the back of my neck stand up more than when that elevator froze at the United Nations and the President of the United States and the First Lady were sitting ducks. Do we know that that building was secure? How do we know that building was secure? We're counting on the UN security forces? Or do we know for a certainty that the Secret Service had the building secure? This is the same Secret Service who was supposed to be on watch at Butler, Pennsylvania. So every day when I say the rosary, the very first bead is for the safety of the president and his family.
Well, Roger, let's go back. Let's go back to May and June before July last year. I went on air apoplectic and said he needs to stop outdoor rallies. They're going to kill him. All the stuff they did failed, all the fake indictments and fake convictions. But I also was having nightmares that he was being shot in public, nightmares that surface-to-air missiles shot his plane down, and nightmares that a woman reporter I literally have these dreams all the time, would have plastic explosives sewed in her purse by somebody else and get on Air Force One. And I haven't done this in all my years on Air, a few of the times. I said, literally, God's telling me this. Okay, I got woken up 4 times in 1 week, and God would say, go turn your phone on. I leave the bathroom. Go turn your phone on, and it's going to be an exact time. And all 4 times it was. The last time it was 4 a.m. And God goes, now count down 15 seconds now. And I count down to 0, and it goes to 4:01, and it said now. And I literally go sit in the kitchen at like 4 a.m. with a cup of coffee, and I go, okay, tell me, surface-to-air missiles, bombs sewed into a purse, and they're going to kill him at an outdoor rally. And I mean, I'm not claiming I'm some prophet or something. This happened. And then on the night of the election, God tells me, say he announces at 1:27. I go, Trump will announce at 1:27, 3 hours before. So I'm telling you, folks, that is, and the reason I tell that story is it's true, it's public. We're not, when you say he needs to be careful, I talked to Flynn off air, and it wasn't off record. He kind of said it on air. He said, no, if he could get Trump to go into a bunker, he would, and just admit how dangerous this all is and expose the left, because they are one, and I'm not having dreams and visions this time. I already had the Holy Spirit's telling me Trump is in grave danger. You are in danger. I am. My spidey sense is off the chain here. You saw what happened to Charlie Kirk, Roger.
Alex, again, God has a plan. So if it weren't for the horrific events in Butler, Pennsylvania, where God spared Donald Trump's life, but for a milli inch of a second turning his head at the right time. And is it coincidental that CNN had a special photographer there with a special camera, and that they covered a rally when they've never covered a Trump rally throughout the entire campaign? I think not. So, but if we hadn't had those horrific events of Butler, Pennsylvania, I don't think the alliance with Robert Kennedy and the Maha Democrats would have been made, and I think the election might have been lost. But it was the events of Butler that turbocharged Trump's campaign and really provided the final drive for victory, and the new coalition of common sense Democrats like RFK and Tulsi Gabbard and Rod Blagojevich and others that began this giant, massive, historic realignment. People need to stop thinking in terms of Republican Democrat. Eric Siebert, the corrupt prosecutor in Virginia who Trump fired. No, he didn't quit. He was canned. He's a Republican. He's a Republican. Robert Mueller was a Republican. Comey, I think, claimed to be a communist, actually, just like Brennan. You wonder how these people get into the national apparatus. So God has a plan.
Yeah, I think the FBI used to fight communists. Now the director is a communist. And that's where I wanted to go. I'm glad you brought that up. That was the big thing that Flynn said. I forgot to go there. So thank you for being simpatico, Roger. This is the future of America existing. Anyone with half a brain would want Trump's plan to succeed for their own safety, security, and freedom and future. So people need to really have a gut check. And we already see it. I mean, Trump has the highest approval rating ever. The Republican Party is now the biggest party it's ever been, bigger than Democrats ever for the first time ever. We're running the tables, but that's why there's the maximum danger. And the public needs to know what you just said. It's not just that we haven't won yet. It's because we are winning. They're in their last desperate actions, Roger. What do we need to do?
Well, we're certainly winning on the electoral front. Look at New Jersey, which is one of only 2 states where there are gubernatorial elections this year. Republican Jack Ciattarelli in a dead heat, according to the newest Emerson poll. This doesn't happen in a blue state like New Jersey. There's a national uprising of voters who are fed up with the status quo and who have bought into the America First agenda, ready to put their country and their state and our people first. So yes, you have increasingly desperate people, and they're getting increasingly outrageous in their claims. They seek to discredit all of these prosecutions. Oh, this is just revenge. This is just a Trump and an act of retribution. No, it's a rebalancing of the scales of justice. It is entirely fair, particularly given the way they weaponize justice against us, which they would like to completely and totally forget. If one of Stone's most important rules, use power or lose power. Right now, Donald Trump has the power, and he must use that power to bring these corrupt Democrats, these corrupt deep state plotters, those who perpetrated the Russian collusion hoax, to justice. And anything less than that is unacceptable. And any embedded Department of Justice prosecutor who's been placed there by Democrat senators who gets in the way needs to be terminated and removed the way President Trump.
No, I totally agree. Well, the gloves are clearly coming off. Trump designated Antifa a terror organization, which it is. People go, you're against police states. No. The definition of terrorism is threatening violence or executing violence to intimidate people for a political, cultural, or economic purpose. They are literally saying we're hurting and killing people. They just shot up an ICE facility. They thought the van wouldn't have illegals in it. That's why they killed them, then killed himself. Now we have this video breaking. Rioters are now screaming, shoot ICE and shoot the effers as agents outside ICE's Broadview facility near Chicago. Why aren't they being arrested? Send in the troops, Mr. President, says Nick Sordor. I want to play that. I want to play Trump signing the Countering Domestic Terrorism and Organized Political Violence. Now, people are like, you're the expert of the police state. You suddenly support it. No, we have these lawful powers when there's real terror. Have you looked around? The Muslims just shot a bunch of people at a baseball stadium and celebrated it. In Texas, I mean, it's every day, people. And you're not Roger Stone or Alex Jones. I'm not bitching at people. I'm just saying, you know what it's like to be me? When I saw or Congressman Scalise or Rand Paul had his ribs broken, I mean, going for hours. But when we get hurt, we don't make a big thing about it. The point is, it's exponential, people. The war is here. Here's the clip.
Arrest ICE!
Arrest ICE!
Arrest ICE!
Arrest ICE!
Shoot ICE!
Shoot ICE!
Shoot the fuckers! Shoot the fuckers!
Literally inciting murder. That's terrorism.
Lastly, sir, this is a
Dang, I'm not a
presidential
cop, man. That guy
memorandum
is.
on countering domestic terrorism and organized political violence. In recent weeks, months, and years, we've seen a tremendous upsurge in some highly visible, but also other acts of domestic terrorism and organized political violence being perpetrated by radical, politically motivated groups all over the country. What this presidential memorandum will do is set off an administration-wide response to that, ranging from the Joint Terrorism Task Forces to other components of the Department of Justice, to the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Treasury. We're looking at interdicting these groups, preventing them from performing acts of violence, and also looking at sources of organization and funding and support that prop them up and allow them to do the acts that they have been doing.
We're looking at the funders of a lot of these groups, and you know, when you see the signs, and they're all beautiful signs made professionally, these aren't your protesters that make the sign in their basement late in the evening because they really believe it. These are anarchists and agitators, professional anarchists and agitators, and they get hired by wealthy people, some of whom I know, I guess, you know, I probably know them. And you wouldn't know it. You're at dinner with them, everything's nice, and then you find out that they funded millions of dollars to these lunatics.
And the DOJ has now officially launched a criminal investigation into Soros. Here's my frustration. I'm going to say it again. And I know I can get it to the president, but Roger, you even better. This particular document we broke 10 years ago was Obama's plan. We got documents out of Maryland, but it was everywhere, to trigger uprisings by Antifa to try to get cops to kill blacks to create a racial uprising so Obama could throw the election for Hillary. It's the group in here run by Alexander Soros. So, and it's how to attack, how to try to manipulate the blacks, how much violence they can engage in, maps of what to burn. And this is one of their officers. Okay. So, and this all came out. Friends of Democracy. So, I mean, this is, I know I keep harping on this, Roger. I guess I need to go back and brief the DOJ on this. I was quite frankly like, why am I briefing on my problems? I mean, this is smoking gun, Roger. So I just hope Trump can understand we have the smoking guns, Roger Stone.
Well, the gentleman you saw speaking in that clip at the White House was Will Scharf, one of the president's lawyers. Very, very sharp, young conservative, excellent lawyer, doing a great job for the president. Stephen Miller has laid this out. They get it. They get it totally. The correct response to the brutal political assassination of Charlie Kirk is not censorship. It's a combination of prayer, but more importantly, to move now aggressively to shut down the funding and organization of these terrorist networks that are causing mayhem. They're causing violence. They're causing death. And the first order, the first responsibility, I should say, of the President of the United States is to maintain order. We're not politicizing Portland or Memphis or Washington, D.C., and we need to move into Chicago. All my friends in Chicago tell me that it is the murder capital of the world. The president has to move aggressively to preserve order. It's actually his constitutional responsibility.
That's right. It's not a right. It's a duty. And Roger, that video we just played from today, I remember 30, 40 videos going back months, even in L.A., where that's the chant is, kill ICE, and they walk over and go, bam, bam, you're going to be dead soon. And now every couple days they're shooting up an ICE facility, and the Muslims are shooting up baseball games. I mean, and imagine if that was conservative did that, you never hear the end of it. We don't do that. But it's literally leftist and Islamic alliance violence is really accelerating, Roger.
You're absolutely right. Look, the entire atmosphere has changed in the wake of Charlie Kirk's brutal political assassination. This was, I think, a sign to us all that I think they think that it was going to make us shut up. I think they thought it was going to silence us. I think they thought it was going to stop us in our tracks. They're completely wrong. The movement is energized, mobilized, and galvanized.
Oh, it was after they killed Kirk that Trump went on this warpath, and now we get indictments. But closing, I should have hit this earlier. Oh, my God. Ray, all those testimonies that there were no FBI there when we knew they were there, the videos of them breaking in, staging their arrest, taking the handcuffs off, high-fiving with the Capitol Police, ex-FBI Director James Comey has been indicted, but now we have the information of the almost 300 FBI agents in plain clothes on January 6th. Chris Wray lied under oath. FBI had 274 plainclothes agents in crowd on January 6th. It was a total Fedsurrection. And thank God the FBI just released this to Congress. So we're finally getting some action from Patel here. That's good. I want to love him. I want to fully back him. I want action, though.
I'm with you, Alex. Great reporting by John Solomon, by the way, at Just the News, who broke that story. But now, at long last, we have the actual number. Over 275 plainclothes FBI provocateurs in the crowd on January 6th. I can tell you who wasn't there. Me. That's who.
You figured it out, and you were like, I got a bad feeling. This is out of control. The crowd's too big. There's not enough security. I'm getting out of here. And then they literally tried to frame you. By the way, I had to pistol whip you to go. Remember, I begged you to even go, even come to DC. You're like, I have a bad feeling. I don't like it. But you.
No, and as you know, Alex, after I watched the president from my hotel room on TV, 2 Secret Service agents
Hold on. You're not getting out of here. 2 minutes. 5 more minutes with us. Yeah, this is, folks, just this J6 thing is so huge, but there's so much other huge news. All right, a few more minutes with Roger Stone, and I've got so much more I haven't hit. It's all coming to a head right now, but yeah, they tried to set us up on J6. They said, oh, we got a stage for Trump. We get there, none of it. The Secret Service tries to escort you there. They told me to lead it, and it was a total setup. Roger Stone, repeat what happened that day.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I never had any plans to go to the Capitol. I watched the president from my hotel room on the ellipse, and then 2 Secret Service agents called my hotel room phone from the lobby saying, we've been sent to escort you to the Capitol. I said, that's very strange. I have no plans to go to the Capitol. No, we've been told to bring you to the Capitol. I passed. I sensed that something was not right, but this clearly demonstrates more of what we learned today, that the whole thing was a setup, was a Fedsurrection, as my good friend Dr. Darren Beatty likes to say, and that there, but for the grace of God, go I. So, Alex, this news about 275 plainclothes FBI agents, that doesn't include how many other people were there from DHS and other agencies.
And NGOs and Antifa seen putting on Trump clothing, MAGA clothing.
Yep, the whole thing is a setup. But the mainstream media continues to try to stick to their phony narrative about January 6th. These same people continue to deny that there was that the entire Russian interference in our election to help Donald Trump was the biggest hoax in America.
But now we're routing them, and that's why they're so dangerous. StoneZone.com. You have a daily show. You also have your #1 show on WABC. Congratulations on having the top ratings. We love you, Roger Stone. God bless you, StoneZone.com.
Thank you, Alex. God bless you.